Welcome to the African News Review podcast, where we cut through the noise and get to the truth. I am your host, Adesoji Iginla, and each week we are here to challenge the biases, prejudices, and misinformation in the Western press about Africa. Using historical context and contemporary insights, we set the record straight and reclaim the narrative. Tune in every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern as we uncover the real stories and reshape the conversations about Africa. This is the African News Review podcast, reclaiming Africa's narrative, one story at a time. Yes, greetings, and welcome to another episode of African News Review. I am your host, Adesoji Iginla, and with me as usual is Aya Fubara Eneli Esquire. She's the author of Your Self-Revolution, one of two books, the other being Kwanzaa, A Celebration Guide. She's the host of Rethinking Freedom 98.5 Killeen, Texas. She's also the host of Women and Resistance, and might I add, Griot books. Welcome, sister.
Thank you. Thank you, my boss, for all my extra jobs. I appreciate you greatly. I just need you to pay your workers. That's all.
We need to get it monetized. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not a capitalist, so maybe that's the excuse I'll use. Comrade Milton Allimadi is the author of Manufacturing 8. He's also the host of Black Star News on WBAI 99.5 FM, New York. And his book is the inspiration for this program we're watching. So, and we're going to tap into his
and he has a new book about to drop, and I know everybody has already emailed him to ask for
Yes. And in case you have not, my email is mallimadi@gmail.com, mallimadi@gmail.com, and that is the day Biafra died, and it's coming out the second week of September. So send me your info so I can send you the alert and how to get this book. Thanks for reminding this.
Thank you. So that said, let's get into it. Let's begin. The news, where you at? So if you could give us a quick summary of what has been happening in your neck of the woods. Comrade, you want to go first? Yeah,
sure.
Comrade,
I'm not surprised by the escalating Islamophobia, nationally. What we saw in New York when Mamdani became the, nominee, the candidate, the desperate Islamophobia where we even had, they recruited Eric Adams, and like Cuomo was literally hiding in the bush behind them, like a ventriloquist, and having him utter these Islamophobic, racist utterances to try to derail Mamdani. It did not work. Of course, he's now mayor of New York. Now we see the same thing after El Sayed won the primaries in Michigan. National escalation of desperate Islamophobia. And obviously, I hope the same thing happens. It's repudiated. And the signs are good. He defeated $60 million of AIPAC money, which, of course, is a repudiation of Netanyahu's genocidal war and imperialism in the so-called Middle East. So that to me is what I've been following closely.
Okay. Sister?
Well, and it happened while I was out of town, but both the Democratic candidate for Texas, the U.S. Senate from Texas, James Tallarico, and the Democratic nominee for governor, Gina Hinojosa, they both visited my area, and it was a packed house. And people were very excited to see and hear from them. And one of the things James Tallarico has been doing is wherever he goes to speak, he says to the people, I will stay till I answer your very last question. And so he's really putting himself out there. We have a very diverse area, but also an area where there's been a lot of racial gerrymandering and ways that they are diluting the Black voice, the Black vote. And so I think it was very important that he showed up in Bell County in this area. And there are parts of Bell County that are quote unquote a little wider, if you will, but he showed up in Killeen, which is very, very diverse. And he and Gina Hinojosa were very well received. So I hope that the voters, we've had almost 30 years of all Republican regime rule in Texas on the state level. Like, they have every statewide office
on lockdown,
and they are killing us. And just this week, and you guys need to go sometimes and look at the pictures of these people or watch their videos. Dan Patrick, who's the lieutenant governor, looking like literal death warmed over, like you dug up a corpse and then put a little light behind to just kind of act like there's life in them.
There's a glow.
And he's threatening that if certain books are not pulled from the libraries in schools, in the school districts, they will, let's say because each school in each district gets a letter grade. So let's say your letter grade is an A, they will lower it by one letter grade, which affects your funding and resources and so on and so forth. So these guys, having already gutted public education, I think Texas is ranked 47 out of 50 in terms of education in the country. With all the power they have and the things that they could be doing to actually make life better for Texans, what they're focused on is punishing an entire school district if even one library has a book. Now, how are they figuring out the books? There are these vigilante Moms for Liberty and other people who, I don't want my child to read this book, therefore no one else can read it. But by any rate, but if you have some time, if you go to YouTube and Google Talarico, then the 10 Commandments, or Talarico and book bans in Texas, you're going to see where he's specifically asking questions of the Republicans. And it's things such as, okay, so are you saying Catcher and the Rye can no longer be a book in the schools because it has someone in there who's a married mother or who's a prostitute? And you could, there's so many distinctions. And then one time he even asked, he's like, okay, so would you agree that there are Republicans who are lying and or lying against people? Yes. Okay. What does the 10 Commandments say? Okay. So are you telling people, because now in Texas, the teachers are supposed to put up the 10 Commandments in every classroom. We're spending money on this, and it's their cronies that are getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's being litigated in the courts for some districts. But it's like, so you're telling people to obey the commandments that you, the legislators, don't obey yourselves. It's really interesting. So yeah, go watch it, get educated, share it with other people. But hopefully we go out and we vote these evil people out.
Because, just to piggyback on what you're saying, if you have the 10 Commandments in the classroom, and Ken Paxman is going to be...
Yeah, Ken Paxton is your mascot who has broken every one of those commandments.
Exactly. My opinion.
So, but that's who you nonetheless are going to vote for. Or the Donald Trump that you have in office that you all are still supporting, who cannot ever open his lips without a lie coming out. So, yeah.
Well, the news from my neck of the woods is two-pronged. One is, although it's not of importance to anyone, because it's tito-tato, as they would say, on this neck of the woods, which means it's inconsequential, which is Harry and Meghan are returning to the UK. I don't know why I think that is news, but,
Because America is on fire. Even they are leaving.
But, the UK,
or
the
maybe
Europeans, they are very crazy. I just wonder how long they'll last before they might end up maybe in a African country where it's much more peaceful and they won't be hounded. These people are crazy. They'll never forgive him for marrying a non-European, non-royal. It's just a question of time. Let me be the first to say that they will end up somewhere else eventually.
Wow.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Just taking a quick break here on the African News Review podcast, but don't go anywhere. If you're enjoying our deep dive into the real stories behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern, we're here to debunk the myths, and bring you the truth about Africa. Want to help spread the word? Share this podcast with your friends and leave us a review. It goes a long way in helping others discover the real Africa. Without further ado, let's get back to setting the record straight.
And let one of those children with that African blood in them get out in the sun and get a little tan.
Yeah.
We
know
see.
our British Europeans.
Okay. Speaking of hounding, the news making the rounds here has been that of the late Professor Arday. But just to give us a snippet of what he had to endure while he was still around, then I will get Comrade's take on it, and then Sister. I especially want to hear what Comrade says with regards to the journalistic angle, whether, any sort of ethics have been flouted here. So the first story comes from The Guardian, and it is that, even the title alone is incendiary, but we should do it all the same. So it goes, it is that it's playbook, plagiarism, and a pig's head. New claims surrounding A-star Cambridge professor. Jason Arde was regarded as an academic superstar, and then the questions about his work prompted scrutiny of his backstory and counterclaims of racism. When even the superstar academic Jason Arde took to the stage at British Sociology Association's 75th anniversary conference earlier this year, he delivered a talk titled Wanted, Dead or Alive, the playbook. So he goes into his inequality, his belief that it's in the academy is unequal, and that there is a certain system in place where if you step out of line or they deem you not to belong, you'll be hounded out, which exactly was what then. It was almost as if he foresaw what was going to happen. You both read the stories. What's your take? And then I will show you one article that sort of corrects some of the anomalies. You want to go first?
All right.
Comrade.
So there are many elements to the story. This story actually could be devoted for the entire show. So I won't be able to touch on as many aspects as I would like to touch if we had time devoted for the entire program, perhaps. On the one level, this is the vindication of the right-wing extremists who, celebrate this type of thing, because to them, they would then use this, the death of Professor the late Arday, as vindication of their position that African people, African descendants, cannot legitimately be worthy of that position that he occupied because they are intellectually inferior to Europeans. So by him being there, he's taking a position that a European should have occupied. Because to them, they can then use this to go and question the legitimacy of other African and African descendants who are professors at every and any other institution, whether they're prestigious ones considered elite institutions or not. And that is the bottom line. And this is nothing new. Remember that book, The Bell Curve? The Bell Curve was the epitome of that narrative. And the Bell Curve was widely written about. If an African person wrote a book that said Europeans by nature are evil and wicked, and used the evidence of the number of non-European peoples that were colonized or exterminated by genocide, enslaved, right? Colonized by imperialism, and use that as evidence that Europeans by nature are wicked and evil, and wrote their version of the bell curve and used statistics showing European numbers of imperialism, extermination of other people. Nobody, no major media outlet would review that book, right? Even though the flip side is the same argument. You know, obviously, if you put people in where they have less opportunities deliberately, they cannot excel, right? And then you use that as evidence of their intellectual inferiority.
Of lack.
You know, so this
Yeah.
is the 21st century version of the bell curve. The bell curve was reviewed by the New York Times, many op-eds written about it, editorial written about it, and even if they say these are questionable, illegitimate narratives and all that, just the fact that you give it this extensive coverage and commentary, you're actually legitimizing it, right? So when a person like Professor Arday got to that position, he became the convenient target because you have one of the most premier institutions in the world. And now, I mean, I am not familiar with the allegations of plagiarism. I've not done the research myself to see that. There have been extensive coverage by major media outlets, and they seem to suggest that there was legitimate grounds to criticize his academic work. But even if that were the case, the way he was then hounded is just extraordinary. This is, if indeed he had plagiarized, this would not be the first person to plagiarize, right? How many European academics that are now in many institutions have plagiarized? Why don't you put their work to the same type of scrutiny as well? And let's expose a couple of these European academics as well. And this, by saying this, I'm not, of course, saying it's okay to plagiarize, if indeed Professor Arde did. But I'm pointing out some of the inconsistencies and hypocrisy in this whole narrative. At the end of the day, you know, whether Europeans like it or not, you are actually African, whether you like it or not. I mean, Professor Antajob proved this already. A monogenetic evolution of humans, right? Not polygenetic. So we did not come from two different branches, which Europeans for a long time tried to insist because they didn't want to be linked to the fact that they actually originate from Africans, right? Because if you originate from the same stock, they cannot be any different, as Professor Adajor, different gradations of innate intellect. It's the same innate intellect that we have. So get over it, you know, and find other professions where you can put that energy you have instead of, you know, hounding this guy to the extent that even after he quit, that was not enough. You wanted him dead. Okay, so you got it.
Sister?
There's no question in my mind that a great segment of people of white ancestry, however they characterize white ancestry, European descent, whatever, are absolutely terrified of the genius and the intellect of people of African descent. What is the proof of this? Let me tell you. I have a dog. I've actually had dogs for a great deal of my life. At no point with the library that I have in my home have I had to create a law or I make sure my dogs don't go into my kitchen, but I do not prevent my dogs from coming into my office or to any of the places that have my books. Why? I'm not concerned about my dog in any way being able to read these texts and then challenge me and so on and so forth. The United States of America specifically, and these are the descendants of these folk that many of them were let out of the jails in Europe, they specifically had to create a law that said, not only will we kill the Black person that is learning to read and write, they would go after the white people who were
Teaching them.
helping Black people learn to read and write. Why would you create such a law? Because you understand our intellect and our genius. You know, on some level, what you saw in Africa. You saw the excellence there. You saw the ingenuity, and you are deeply afraid of what happens if these people, not even a level playing field, have any access to the same resources that you do. And here we are, after everything documented in journals written by your ancestors about the ways that you have tried to crush us, not just our bodies, our literal spirits, erase our memories, make us feel that we're less than dirt. In spite of that, in the UK, the people who score the highest on any of the exams that they have created are people of African descent. Is that a fact or not?
It is.
So, Professor Arday, unfortunately, joins the annals of so many of the Black people of African descent who have been hounded and lynched for whatever way we displayed any form of genius. Because, oh my God, if they realize how brilliant they are, we can't hold them back anymore. We've got to keep re-emphasizing the sense of you are inferior so that maybe, like Carter G. Woodson said, they will stay with this mindset and they will continue to find that back door. Now, I think it was in the very first paragraph you're reading, they said the superstar, whatever. Yeah, you're already afraid of this man. Born autistic, from the information I've read, couldn't read or write till he was 18. And then now, plagiarism or not, wait a second. Are you guys not still buying Pablo Picasso art? Did he not copy African art? It's in their own books. It's in their own annals. Go and look at all of the print and stuff that's coming out of these house of designs right now. They go and copy African motifs. Everything that our music, our movement, our dance, our form of speech, everything. Listen, white folk who want to come for me, go and look at the history that you all have written yourself. You are terrified. And instead of working to make yourselves better human beings and to tap into whatever God has put into you, you are expending so much energy trying to tear us down. And guess what? It hasn't worked for 500 years. It's not going to work in the next 500 years. Yes, you may have sacrificed Arday. I'm not getting into whether he plagiarized or not. That was no excuse for what was done to him. But regardless of what you all do, like Maya Angelou says, and still we rise. And Flo Kennedy, who I'm looking at her book right now, would be like, to all of y'all, that's it.
Okay, so let's put certain things to rest. On the issue of plagiarism, I was hoping so he resigned. Let's give a bit of a timeline. So prior to him, there were 249 articles written entirely on his person. 61 of that was written before he resigned on the 5th of August. After he resigned on the 5th, there was 188 articles.
But that part is not surprising because that is now validation of what they've been saying all along, that this guy cannot be worthy of where he was. So that part is not surprising to me.
Yeah.
None of them are worthy. They're all what? Let's go and subject each of those remaining professors to the same scrutiny. Let's see what we're going to find.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the plagiarism. On the question of plagiarism in Cambridge, there's actually a sitting professor at the moment who plagiarized the essay of his students, William O'Reilly. He's still in the employment of Cambridge. He's not been hounded out. He's still there. Yeah? But one would expect all of these journalists...
These people have been stealing our patents.
Yeah.
Getting credit for work we do, and they're heroes. Give me a break.
I told you from the beginning that this is a conversation for an entire show. Did I not tell you? So that's why I kept my comments and I stopped at some point. It's not because I don't have a lot more to say. But if you want it to be, to be the focus of the entire show, I have no issue with that.
With no issues.
No, I mean, I just want to clarify something. In the course of the week, Middle East Eye actually did an investigation on all the allegations. And here is what they found. Let's just, so that people actually get a sense of, Jason Arde, Middle East found. Okay, so all of them. So first one is Jason Arde's marathon challenge and football claims found to be true after his death. Claims that the late academic made were widely derided as false in media and online discourse this month appear to be true, and me analysis has found. Okay, so I have to give kudos to the guy who did the investigation. His name is Imran Mullah, and he finished it on the 20th of August, which was then published. Okay, this includes the Cambridge professor's claim that he ran 30 marathons in 35 days for charity and he played semi-professional football, which both central talking points in recent attack on the late academics. So where is it? So extensive media coverage, which continued after Arday resigned, highlighted the allegations often presented as facts that the academic had fabricated a large part of his life story. Particularly mocked was Arday's claim that he ran 30 marathons in 35 days. Does, in fact, appear to have completed the challenge. On 16th of June 2010, Richmond Times, a London newspaper, reported Arday, an energetic lecturer, was set to push his body to the limits by running the London Marathon route every day for 15 days, followed by a run from Piccadilly to Teddington and back again for the second part of the challenge. He was raising money for two charities, Shooting Star, Children's Hospice, and Homeless Charity Shelter. There he is. Yeah? So, shouting, Jason Arde completes 30 marathon in 35 days for Shelter and the Shooting Star Hospice, Richmond and Twickenham Times reports. In total, Mr. Arde has raised more than 100,000 for charity since he began fundraising when he was 17. And on the issue of his, plagiarism, where is that? Okay, let's do about the footballer. Okay, so on 25th of August, according to Richmond Times, completed his marathon. Okay, we've talked about that. Okay. Not that it really mattered, but Jason Arde did actually play semi-pro football as he said he did. Even if he didn't, nothing there is in the dressing room of his football team. And what is it? On the charity issue, Karen Pelfer, Shooting Star Challenge event fundraiser, said it's a real privilege to have had someone so unique and inspirational fundraising for our charity after his death. Sarah Carney, an old friend of Arday's, told the socialist worker, by the time I knew him, he already raised loads of money for charity. He also organized loads of events. In 2010, I was with Jason on the last of his 30 marathons he ran in 35 days, she recalled. On playing professional football, another claim derided online. Can
you hold on for a second?
Go on.
Where were these people when he was being hounded?
No, they were there. It's just that people never spoke to them. Yeah, they were online. People never spoke to them.
Okay, carry on.
Playing professional football. Another claim derided online in the last few days was Arday played semi-professional football. In fact, he played for two semi-professional clubs, Walton and Hersham and Lewisham Borough FC. He was listed as a goalkeeper in Lewisham Borough FC first team. Me had found and referenced in a report on the match in October 2018. Okay, on the issue of him having raised more than 5 million for charity, which has also been ridiculed, yet he often described this in collective terms rather than suggested he alone raised the sum. Where he is, plagiarism allegations. The root of the scandal surrounding Arday's, however, concerned allegation of plagiarism. This stemmed from the accusation that the academic Nathan Koffners, the racist, published on Substack about Arday's PhD thesis. Arday completed his thesis at Liverpool's John Moore University in 2015, which investigated over the claims. Earlier this year, the university concluded that in March, the citation issues in the thesis were the result of honest and reasonable error, and that the textual overlap with other works were well within the acceptable range of compliance with the academic standards of the time. So, that said, why should he be hounded to death?
We already discussed why he should be hounded.
For
He's not European.
For all the reasons. He's intellectually a genius and apparently
A human being.
physically an extraordinary human being. He is their greatest fear.
All right. So let me be frank.
Yeah, go.
I personally am not comfortable saying that I would sit here and exonerate him for his academic work because I have not personally researched it. And that's why in the beginning said, whether that was true or not, that's, irrelevant. What is more relevant is the different type of treatment that he was subjected to when compared to other academics that are out there. But because you read one article right now, I would not be willing to say that that article now says that he did not do anything wrong at all. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. What to me is much...
And I totally agree
right. What to me is much more important and very obvious is that he was demonized and then selected as this is the absolute manifestation and exoneration of what we've been saying all along, that African people and people of African descent are intellectually inferior. And we now have this prime example that you should use to measure every other African academic. That to me is the bigger story, rather than going itemized one by one to verify. And then let me add this other point. When it comes to African people and African descendants, they are the collective. That's how you judge them, right? They're all one and the same. But when it comes to Europeans, no, we are individuals. My ancestors had nothing to do with slavery or the slave trade. So that's why your argument about reparations, I can't buy that. I wasn't there, right? We hear that all the time. So with them, it's not about the collective. But with African people, yes, every one of those academics is somehow Professor Jason Arde, you see? And that's what we should, fight against and push back.
Okay, so we go on to the next story, which is about...
question, really quickly, I know we have to go on, is, so now what do we do about this? How do we respond? What are our expectations when we go into these spaces and we drink the Kool-Aid thinking we are
the business,
exceptional because that's idle. And how do we fight?
I'm glad you raised that question. We have to continue excelling. Let me give you a few examples very quickly. And it's not about, bragging or anything, but to point out the hypocrisy. A couple of stories I did. I did a story about the Ugandan foreign minister stealing $30 million from the UN by not telling the UN that he owned the company that had a contract with the UN while he's a foreign minister. And how did I find that story? I saw a small publication did an article that he had stolen maybe, $50,000 or something. And he had a link to the website of the UN for 1 year. And then I said, you know what, let me use that same link, but just change the years and go backwards. And then I started finding he had stolen 5 million 1 year, 6 million another year, So in journalism, this kind of creativity might be rewarded with what they call the Pulitzer, right? But who cares about that? Do they mention us? Zero. No. But would it stop me or undermine me from doing that? I can do effective journalism. Completely zero. The story in Michigan about this doctor, University of Michigan, who was poisoning his Haitian-born wife for 9 years and got her to sign an agreement that transferred 100% of marital assets to him while she was under the influence of the drugs. Millions of dollars, the 2 homes, appointed his friend, colleague, psychiatrist as the person who would determine her mental fitness to co-parent the children, right? He was fired by the University of Michigan, and the University of Michigan did a non-disclosure agreement with him, gave him a severance package. Nobody else except Black Star has written about this story, and yours truly. The lady, actually Cassandra Famille, and the doctor's name is Greg Sinclair. and the other psychiatrist is Dr. Dominique Barberio. She has a secret tape recording of a conversation where he admitted that she was not schizophrenic. And she gave this to the police. The police investigated and recommended he be criminally charged. But he's a European man, a doctor there for 35 years. The district attorney, the prosecutor, refused to prosecute. Nobody else has written about this story up to date. A European, this would be a Pulitzer story. But you know what? And then the doctor goes, look at the arrogance now and the white privilege. He goes and sues me for reporting the truth. He sues me and Black Star for reporting the truth. And look at how preposterous it is. He sued me for reporting that. I wrote that the police were investigating him. Not only did they investigate, they recommended he be criminally charged, right? He sued me for reporting that he was having an affair with a married nurse at the hospital while he was allegedly drugging his wife. And then he admits to doing it in the deposition during the divorce lawsuit. And I sent him a video that I have of him and the married nurse getting in the backseat of his car, right? There is enough there. And now, but here's the big part now. Now they're trying to hire a new president, University of Michigan. The last president they tried to hire, Kent Seiberler, I wrote to him. I said, I hope once you start this job, that you'll be much more transparent and answer these questions about Cassandra Famille. He did not start that job. He said he had health reasons. You know, that was the explanation. I accepted, but he did not take that job. Now they're trying to hire another one. I've already reached out to her with the same questions. Will you be transparent compared to these guys there? So let's see what happens next week if she takes this job. She takes the job, I'll be asking the same questions again. And let me just close the story on one note. So I was wondering, how is this doctor going to go to trial when I have all this evidence proving that I never defamed him? So about a week or two before the trial is supposed to start, they gave him a default judgment, saying because my responses to his interrogatories came 48 hours late. Why was it 48 hours late? Because I went into my email system and realized that every email I exchanged with his lawyers had been deleted, which of course is criminal. And I reported it to the FBI. I told my lawyer, ask the judge to give me more time to finish the interrogatory. I don't even think she did ask the judge. So he gets a default while he did not respond to a single interrogatory because my lawyer never asked him, I think. Why? Because they thought I was going to take the money and settle. And I refused the money in February. And now he gets the default. But you know what? I think the judge handling the defamation was not fully aware of what was going on. I went there. I had no lawyer. And even though, since he has the judge, now you can only talk about how much money he's supposed to be getting. I ignored all of that, especially during my closing. And I said everything this doctor had said. The next week, the judge was supposed to grant him a temporary restraining order, preventing me from doing any more writing. She canceled that hearing. I think this judge is waking up now. And now she's giving me a date to get this default vacated. And that's going to be next month. And why am I saying all this? Because I want the European media to hear this, that they're actually guilty by colluding, by not covering the alleged crimes committed. This doctor, they're willing to allow him to go get hired by another hospital and commit the same alleged crimes against some other victims. Because of this victim.
Like they do with all the police officers who are convicted of harming us in one police department, and then they're allowed to go to another one.
City and continue.
Thank you for your courage. Thank you for fighting for our sister.
Until the very end. I told her, even if I have to create a new publication, this guy and justice will be served.
Wow. Okay, I'm minded. We're coming to close. We'll take one final story and call it a day for today.
What?
Yes, it's.
We got time.
Okay. Let's go to America's colony. They might not like us calling it that, but let's go to Liberia. And so for this story, we go to Deutsche Welle, and it is that Trump has decided. Liberia says it is taking in 1,200 third country U.S. deportees. The government in Monrovia says the first batch of 20 people should arrive in Monrovia in Liberia on Thursday. The Trump administration has been seeking countries to take people it cannot send back to their countries of origin. There's President Trump. Liberia intends to accept up to 1,200 people to be transferred from the United States within a year, the Liberian government said in a statement published on Tuesday. It said the people will be received as guests and they will be free to depart the country when they so desire or apply for asylum. However, it also said it would receive support to help manage the program, strengthen its migration system more broadly without elaborating. The statement also referenced Liberia's 19th century history as a refuge for freed enslaved from the U.S. and its long history of accepting people seeking refuge from political and other crises. What's your take on this story?
Brother, can I make a recommendation?
Yes, please.
You've teed up this story. If you tee up the Côte d'Ivoire story, we can do both of them together because they're both about dumping stuff in Africa.
Good.
True. You're right.
About dumping stuff. Okay. Let me do that. Wow.
In fact, she's right.
Dumping
I actually
stuff.
wrote that down as one of my notes here. She's 100% correct.
Okay. So let's do this. From Radio France International is the story that 20 years after, Probo Koala. 20 years after Probo Koala, Africa still grapples with waste colonialism. 20 years after toxic waste from the cargo ship Probo Koala was dumped across Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, the disaster remained an open wound for many victims and a symbol of wealthy nations sending unwanted waste to Africa. Okay, on 19th of August 2006, more than 500 tons of harmful substance unloaded from the ship was dumped at 18 sites across Côte d'Ivoire economic capital. The fumes spread a foul smell across parts of the city, killing 17 people, according to the official toll, leaving tens of thousands suffering symptoms of poisoning. There's this particular story. The night the waste arrives is still vivid for William Akese, who was 26 at the time and is now a spokesperson for the village chief. That night, my wife had a cesarean section. Akese said, I only just returned from the hospital with her, and it was that very night that the waste was dumped. We couldn't breathe, the stench was terrible, and my child died. So, dumping human beings and wastes.
Yeah. I mean,
who wants to go for it?
It's sad that the origin of humanity, right? Where all humanity, wherever humanity now exists, is now the dumping ground for the toxic waste of the world, and also people that are also considered to be, quite frankly, toxic waste as well. So that's why my sister is correct in asking to put them together in this discussion. And at the end of the day, it just shows you the level of weakness of these African countries. It goes to show you that this notion of independence is fictitious and it's not true. China is an independent country because China now exercises sovereignty over all its territory. China decides what to produce economically. China does not produce what the West wants to consume. So England cannot come to China and say, I like tea, so produce tea for me. The U.S., Starbucks says, I want coffee, so produce coffee for me. That is the sign of an independent country. African countries are not independent. And that is how, in fact, I'm glad that I brought up China because remember, the article also says China banned, I think it was in 2018, right? The importation of waste. These countries cannot even afford to do that. They can't afford to ban anything, because they're in such, and here's the biggest tragedy. You have all the natural and mineral resources that is being used to create wealth and prosperity everywhere in the world except in Africa, right? And yet at the same time, politically, structurally, economically, you're the weakest link globally now, so that they can come and dump anything. So they're saying they're not accepting it's not a quid pro quo. Of course it's a quid pro quo. It's been written that Liberia was given $5 million. $5 million for 1,200 people. I've not done the math yet, but that sounds peanuts to me. Right? And they call it migration management support. Right? This 21st century type of thing. And now here, when they got there, 5 of them who refused to come out of the plane, the U.S. agents that accompanied them on the flight, put their knees on their neck and then dragged them out. I think it was so embarrassing that even the Liberians said, oh, no. So the 5 of them, out of the initial 20 that went last week, ended up being deported to Equatorial Guinea, another place. And who knows what will happen after that. This is really, really sad. And this happens because instead of everybody being able to stand and say, no, the U.S., this is against all international law and human rights, we are not going to accept it. But when you're the weakest link, they come to you. And that is Africa. And the same analogy with the toxic waste. You're the weakest link, they come to you. And now, of course, the biggest calamity is plastics, electronics, and textiles. A big story a few weeks ago was in Accra, Ghana. Flooding, the whole parts of the city flooded because all of those drainage systems had been clogged by plastic and discarded textile, used clothes that's exported from the U.S. To Ghana. So those are my observations.
Sister?
I don't even know where to start on this.
Yeah,
to be quite honest with you. Besides just absolute disgust with our African leaders.
Sister, sorry. Let me just add one thing quickly. They said there's been a lot of cleaning, and that thing, the toxic waste, I forget, 500 tons from Europe that was dumped 20 years ago in Côte d'Ivoire was cleaned by 2015. By clean, what are you saying? Are you saying it was just relocated to another zone? How do you clean something like that? Okay? So I forgot to add that. Go ahead, sister. Yeah.
They cleaned it by, in one of the pictures in the article, they've collected some of the contaminated dirt, and they've bagged it. And the bag that's still sitting there.
Yeah.
And you see a mother carrying her baby on her back, and she's holding tissue to her nose. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering how the child is breathing, being carried on the back with no protection. Yes. But let me go back to the statement I made when we started with Jason Arde. God rest his soul. They have made it very clear in every way possible that they want to kill and destroy us. Whatever story we're looking at.
It boils down to the same thing.
We are not human. We are expendable in their eyes. Now we have to decide what we are to ourselves. And all of their actions, consciously or unconsciously, are designed to protect them and to kill us off. This is just this is facts. Anybody who wants to come for me, let's look at your laws. Let's look at your policies. Let's look at the choices that you have repeatedly made. You will even make choices that hurt you in the hopes that it hurts us more.
Yeah.
So here's the craziness of, we are civilized. We are the first world countries and they're third world countries. And you are taking your trash and you're dumping it. You're so civilized that you have created a way of life that poisons. Meanwhile, other indigenous people have lived for centuries without creating civilizations that killed them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Your technology, your so-called civilization, your so-called development creates the very things that will kill everything. So to give yourself a reprieve, you go and dump it where we are. We Africa has 60% of the arable land in the world. Let's go and poison their waters. Let's go poison their land without ever looking at your own systems. Listen, even if you succeed in killing us, which you won't, because we are baby kids, we are seeds. Okay, you can never get rid of us, and history shows that. Your systems are killing you as well. But you're not looking at all this technology. Oh, now we can do this, we can do that. And what happens after? What are you producing? So first of all, they could have, the Netherlands, whatever, they could have handled it for $620,000, the article says. No, save that money because some knucklehead in Africa said, bring it to us for $17,000.
That is a person that needs to serve his life in prison.
You have no ethics. You have no ethics and you have no morals, and it's all about capitalism. We don't care about those people. And that man's child died. And how many more? Then here comes Bokai. I'm going to call him by name, who served under Erland Sirleaf. And I was trying to research to say, what has she said about what her protege is doing with Trump? Under what circumstances does it make sense that one country says, we don't want to deal with these people anymore, and you, who cannot take care of your own folk, decide, I'm going to take them in? Like, what are you getting? Now, Bokai came from this is the Liberian president. He came from a very poor family. He really had to work his way up, but I don't know what happens with that education and the colonization of the mind that 1,200. So what, Trump can smile with you and he can pat you on the head?
Yeah, he did say.
And of course, it's not just his country. There are many other African leaders who are making the same decision. And I don't know if it's because we're not paying attention. These people don't mean you well. What is the long-term implication of you? Have you even found out, wait a second, who are they deporting? Are they deporting mass murderers? Are they deporting the person with a traffic ticket? Are they who are you even getting to begin with?
Sex offender.
And how does that become maybe a security issue for you? And for what? For what? What did you get out of it? So with all of this, we the people have to hold ourselves and hold our leaders accountable. He was just elected. He was elected in 2024. He'd been trying to get elected for a while. He should never have another position. The people should come out, and I know it's hard to put this on folk because everybody kind of wants to mind their own business. They should come out the way the Kenyans came out. They should never have let those folk deplane.
Landed.
Let them take them back. But under what circumstance are you taking everything that Europe and the U.S. doesn't want and allowing them to dump it on you?
That's aiding and abetting. You're right. I agree.
Yeah. That said,
And if you go to the UAE story, which we're not going to get into, but we could because we've got 5 minutes, same thing. It's still African.
Yeah. That's what actually is the worst. I think we need to devote a show in the near future just looking at what the UAE is doing.
Yeah,
we need to also be frank and speak about the racist aspect. That, sister, you brought up in the past a number of times. It is unavoidable. We can't just go by the philosophy that we are all non-European people, so we should have this solidarity of oppressed non-European peoples. No, that's not the case when you have the UAE essentially promoting and financing a genocide in the Sudan. And I saw a clip where one of the leaders of the UAE, I think, was in London, and he was taking a walk, and somebody was shouting and saying, "You're killing my people in Sudan." And what was one of the things you said? You called him a black bastard, So the racist aspect we cannot avoid. But we need a campaign. If you could organize campaigns over Blood Diamond, organize campaigns over coltan in the Congo, there's no reason why we cannot organize. If you organize a campaign against Rwanda promoting with Chelsea Football Club, why can't we do something against the UAE for what the genocide they're financing? We can't just say, Netanyahu's genocide. is somehow worse than the UAE's genocide in Sudan.
Because more have been killed. If we're even going by
So
numbers.
we need to get on board with that one.
Okay. I mean, we can look to organize something, and we'll keep that on the wraps for now. I'm minded of the time. Yeah, it's how the time flies, like somebody said in the chat. Yeah, it's been an hour, and I have to thank you both for coming through every
thank
week.
you for always selecting the best of the best for conversation.
Well, we have to be minded this is part of the work of, sensitizing our people towards how the world views us and how we should view ourselves, like Sister said earlier. So that said,
having these conversations with younger people as well. You are not an exceptional Negro. You better get it right. You better understand that we are at war. We did not, and like Carney said when they asked him a question. This is the minister for Prime Minister for Canada, and they said, why are you going to war with America on this trade issue? And he says, oh, no. We didn't go to war. We were attacked, and we have to respond. People of African descent need to understand. I don't care how many friends you have who are white. I have friends of European descent. We're not talking about one-on-one stuff here. We are talking about a system that is designed to kill us. And they feed into that system, consciously or unconsciously, and we cannot play around and act like, oh, we're going to kumbaya our way out of this.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
And can you put the link for the GoFundMe, please?
In the link.
Yeah, because the Negro school that I love. I'm sorry, don't say anything because that's your school. I apologize if I'm offending you.
Listen, but I know times are tough for everybody. It's hard to raise the kind of fund for, a year of the PhD program. And I'm looking at much more realistically to continue the fundraising and aiming for the spring semester for sure. By miracle, if something happens this coming week, fine, because the deadline actually to register for this semester is the first week of September. So something would have to happen this week. And if that is the case, I will just use that extra time to do my second book, which I've started researching already, on the relations between the United States and General Idi Amin. Yeah. So, every time will be well used. But I'm not saying that people that have, resources that want to go to the GoFundMe, of course, I want you to go because I would still need it for the spring semester. Anyway, if another fellowship or teaching assistant does not materialize between now and the spring.
Okay. So, Sister, final thoughts?
Put your money where your mouth is. If you go to a restaurant and you get fed, you pay, right? Brother Allimadi, who is a legend in my opinion and in the opinion of anyone who knows the facts about his life, has been feeding us for decades, who is exiled from his own country. And if you've been eating from him, go ahead and put some money in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my last word.
Thank you. So until next week, until Wednesday, when Sister and I will come back with Women and Resistance, which is Queen Nandi, at 7 p.m.
She's something else.
Yeah. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, Queen Nandi on Women and Resistance. It's good night and God bless. Good night. That's a wrap for this week on the African News Review Podcast. We hope you are leaving with a clearer, more truthful picture of Africa. Remember, every story has another side, and we're here to uncover it. Don't forget to join us next Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern as we continue to challenge the narratives and reclaim Africa's voice. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep seeing Africa for what it truly is.